Okay, we're gonna try this out. Let's see. We're just gonna record. Okay, isn't this the file I want? Okay. So, just a little human drawing tutorial. Yippee! Where's Piper? We're gonna use Miss Piper as our example because that's who Rogue wanted. Oh, fuck, where's she? Where are you, Piper? Here we are. Please ignore how many files I have open. That's between me and God. So, starting out, human drawing. I guess we're doing drawing and coloring. Um, and if this doesn't work, then I'm just gonna also draw somebody else. Um, but, so here's usually just how I start out my human sketches. I usually start out with a circle, divide that in half, um, use that as, that, whatever. Fun fact about human proportions, because I'm an art student who's taken figure drawing. Um, the eyes will always be in the middle of the head, so between that, around halfway should be your eyes. Of course, that depends on like the stylization, whatever. My personal, like, more cartoony and stylized art style that I like to do, I fuck with proportions a little bit, especially facial proportions. I like to exaggerate them a lot. Um, Yeah, did not like how that nose was looking. Don't like that either. Okay, that's better. How did I do that? Okay. Don't really like this mouth. Um, Apologies if I'm a little quiet as I speak. I have a hard time talking and drawing at the same time. Um, but I'm gonna try my best. Also, just for the record, this is in like real time watching me draw. I am not doing a voiceover. Well, I am doing a voiceover, but I'm also actively like this is 1-to-1. I'm not doing a after the fact voiceover. Um, so yeah, and then I think I'm only gonna do um. I think I'm only gonna do like a little bust. Maybe, yeah, I'm only gonna do a bust. I kind of sort of don't really want to draw a full body right now, so this is what you're getting from me. But, yeah. So, for necks, I tend to draw necks a little bit skinny, but, that's kind of how it be. Um, this is, obviously my own personal style. We have some of my favorite brushes here, and by some of my favorite brush, I mean I'm using one brush. Um, and that is my trusty grease pencil. I struggled to draw the colors of shirts. Um, you'd think with how many characters that I put into flannels, I would know how to do it by now. And the answer to that is I'm kind of sort of decent at it, but I'm not great. Also, once again, welcome to super quick webs drawing. Webs drawing. Um, I don't really know what people want to hear from me for this, so this is just sort of a fuck it we ball kind of stitch. Um, yeah. I always like to put detail into my character's ears. I don't really know why. You know what? We're gonna give Piper her hoops today. Because sometimes I like to give my characters jewelry. Um, Pro tip, whenever you're drawing humans and stuff, and don't take my advice because sometimes I don't even take my own advice. But something that I do enjoy doing at times when I do it is drawing your shit on separate layers so you can see what you're doing. And also so that you, yeah, have that available, stuff like that. Um, Hair. I know that's something people have asked me how I draw hair. Um, I This is just from a lot of looking at hair and studying kind of how hair falls and stuff like that. Um, your hair is usually, it's always, I tend to start my character's hairlines a little bit high, in all honesty, as you can see. And I also tend to kind of draw parts the same way. But one thing, because I think this is mostly going out to all the cat artists that want to see this. Um, One thing that I kind of do in my personal art, or that I do in my personal art, I say that like I, you know, don't have personal art. I don't. I have. Okay, I need to shut. Um, Hair is kind of like fur, but you kind of have to treat it like really, really, really like long fur. So you can have it like fall in like similar ways. I kind of at times will just treat strands of hair like little cattails. And you'll notice that I draw strands of hair in the same way that I draw cattails, but you can have a little bit more freedom with hair because hair doesn't have bones. Tails do have bones. Um, but yeah, okay, so we are gonna do this half up, half down. Fun fact, um, good thing to think about when you are drawing hair is how is it styled and how's it gonna be pulled back when it's styled. So like when you pull back your own hair, if you pull back the top of it, you're gonna have this top back pulled back. So you want to emphasize that that's where your hair's going. Um, this is her ribbon. Oh fuck. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that works. Um, and also, like, if you're gonna see stuff, sometimes you're not gonna see stuff. Um, Sometimes you are gonna see stuff. Nothing I'm saying makes sense, and I definitely should have done a voiceover after the fact instead of recording while I was drawing. Because I forget that I'm completely illiterate sometimes, and sometimes I don't say shit that makes any sense at all. Maybe I'll just remove the audio and recording. I don't know. We'll see about that afterwards. If you're hearing this, then I did not remove the audio after the fact when I was editing, and you're just getting pure rebs. Just pure rebs. I mean, not that you wouldn't be getting pure rebs anyways, but like, this is unfiltered. Unfiltered, unedited, raw, the real truth. I need. Okay. But yeah, and that's just kind of the general. Is like also remember that hair has weight to it too. So it is going to flow downwards, but it also it can curl upwards. And I think the best thing is just use references, man. Okay, okay. I'm gonna put a little bit more weight into some of these lines that I want to have a little bit more added to it. I don't like that. But yeah, okay. Now for coloring. So I'm gonna color these in the same way that I colored these guys because I liked how I colored these guys. Um, which means that I'm not going to actually properly really them. I'm just gonna kind of go fuck it, we ball, and why is my brush so big? Okay, okay. So here I'm using my little dense watercolor brush because I kind of want it to have that more of a loose coloring style. That's what I did for all of these guys. I like how these turned out. It's also what I did for this one right here. Um, it's not the way that I usually color my main drawings, but the way that I choose colors and stuff is going to be the same. Um, the way that I do like my coloring process. And this being said, especially with my coloring process, the way that I color stuff kind of is the same throughout like kind of everything. I don't really tend to mix up my coloring process, and I really kind of tend to layer it and like chunk it the same way I do everything. Um, okay, so I'm just gonna do that. It's really the edges that I just want to be all like loose and nice for this one. The main base I don't really care about being loose, and honestly I prefer it to be more solid. Okay, so once you have your base colors down and you have it and you like it and it looks nice, you go over here, you see this little thing? That's lock transparent pixels. That's your opacity lock. That means you can do this. And it doesn't go outside the lines, and if you didn't know that that existed, that is going to be your best fucking friend here, my friend. Um, Now, with Piper, so how I know, Ro wanted to know how I color skin. How I color skin tends to be, it depends on the character a lot of the time, but as a whole, I usually take the base color and then I change it a little bit so it's a little bit more warmer, and then I just go down like that. Um, so I do more saturation and I make it darker, and actually, yeah, it's better. And obviously I do change this depending on, wait, I don't, actually I do want it on another layer. I do change it around based on, like, I don't want this brush. Sorry. I wanted a softer brush. This is my Psy watercolor brush dupe that I've had for years. I don't know where I got it. I don't remember how I got it. I don't know anything about this brush other than it's in my library and I do like having it there. Um, so this one and a lot of my style is very blendy, especially when it comes to coloring. I either blend everything or I blend nothing, and there's kind of zero in between. Are we gonna put your lipstick on today, Piper? Yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that. Okay, so it's kind of like very blendy and stuff, just so that I have. I'm actually gonna merge that down. Um, a lot of that. So I did have that on a previous layer just because I wasn't sure about how I felt about that kind of like blush tone. And sometimes when I'm not sure about blush tones, I do them on a layer above, and then I can mess around with the opacity and stuff. So I usually tend to go a little bit darker than I think I need, and then I can just lighten it up a little bit. But as a whole, when coloring like blush in areas like that, I have a tendency to the heaviest areas are always going to be the nose and like right underneath the eyes. Um, and that's where I tend to put a lot of that. Um, and then the nose, always darkest near the tip, and then up. Um, and something I've recently started doing is kind of dragging it so it's a little bit lighter in that crease of the nose. I don't do it with everything. It's just something that when I remember to do it, I'm kind of like, yeah, that looks decent. Um, she's like, you look a little gray Piper. Hold on. Uh, Okay, that makes it a little bit better. But yeah, Piper's one of my more like neutral skin tone characters, so she doesn't have as warm of a tone of a lot of my other characters. For example, you can see like Bo. This is Bo. Bo over here. He has a very warm skin tone, so I use a lot of pink undertones whenever I shade him. I do the same for Hazel. Hazel has a lot of pink undertones. Willow has a lot of more gray or like neutral undertones. Noelle very pink. Frida has warmer undertones, but she has a cooler base skin tone. Um, Matt's pretty neutral. Denver has warm undertones. Cora has warm undertones. I like working with warm color palettes. Sue me. Okay, so once we have this base like skin tone, yada yada yada, um, I'm gonna continue coloring with this brush just because I like the vibes it gives. So with my eyes, I always do white for the whites of the eyes, but I always do it on a brush that's not like completely solid, so it's kind of, it's just vibey. Um, for eyes, pull that shit on another layer, color it, make that solid. You want your base eye color to be solid, base eye color. And then I usually have three colors that I use for eyes. Um, Lightest color, do that shit around the pupil, have it follow the pupil. Darkest color, also have it follow the pupil, but this one, it's going to be darker more towards the top of the eye and also around the edge of the eye. Something that's very important when I do my art is I don't always completely stick to the color palettes that I give myself, so don't feel bad. Okay. Did that. I usually also like to take the lightest color of the eye, make that shit really, really pale, kind of shade the top of the eye like that, give it a little more depth, make it feel a little more alive. Also kind of bring in that color palette from the eye. It just makes it fun. It's not like realistic or like anything, but I just like the way it looks. What's on this layer? I don't think anything's on that layer. I'm gonna use it. Okay, I'm gonna color her shirt really quickly. I don't want. Hold on. And with that, I'm doing that on a separate layer above with a clipping mask on. Or, well, not with a clipping mask, but just like clip to layer below. It's a quick cheese clipping mask basically. Um, it's not like a proper clipping mask, but it does the work of a clipping mask without having to figure out how clipping masks work. Do I know how they work? Yes. I've used them so much. Do I use this instead because it's easier? Yeah. It's like three less clicks that I have to make. And I'm lazy. Okay, so preserve opacity, that shit. And then as a whole, in general, hold on, I'm gonna take a screenshot really quickly. Whenever I'm choosing my colors, where is that? Where'd it go? There it is. Drag that down over here. I'm use you as an example, my friend. Whenever I'm choosing colors, especially whenever I'm coloring, so for example, with this shirt color, when I'm gonna go shade, I always saturate it way more. And then that's what I use the shadings. And I remember Rhodes said that my art has this very glowy look. I think this is probably because of it. So I really heavily saturate my shadows. Drag that up there. Steal some shadow from her neck. So I really heavily saturate my shadows. So let's grab new color. So, shading goes that way. And then for lighting, depending on the color, I usually just go straight up and then a little bit over um, in either direction. In this case, because her shirt is very kind of like a red tone, but it's more of a red orangey tone. I tend to I like to hue shift my lighting a little bit. So we're gonna grab that. So shadows go down into the right. Lighting, wrong layer again. I spelled lighting wrong. That's embarrassing. Goes up, and I usually just go straight up, and I saturate it, and then I usually take it in either direction this way. Depends on vibe. And that's really it. Depends on the vibe. So it just kind of depends on what you want from it. Okay, now we got her shirt, and we're gonna grab her hair. I'm so glad that I finally put in color palettes for my characters for MH because oh my god, boy howdy, especially with the eyes, I was struggling to color pick. I did this to myself, but like, you know. So quickly throw in her hair. And I'm not super worried about these edges being super clean. I might fix those later depending on if I like it. Once I'm done drawing more. But, you know, we go on vibes. We go based on vibes. We fuck it. We fuck it? No, we don't fuck it. But, yeah. So, oh, I forgot her hair ribbon. Okay, I'm gonna really quickly toss in her hair ribbon because I want that to be in front. Oh, that's hard to see against her skin tone. Whatever. Okay, there we go. Quick, easy, done, perfect, beautiful. Easy breezy, beautiful. Is that Cover Girl? Cover Girl. Yeah, that's Cover Girl. Easy breezy. No, maybe? I don't know. I'm too lazy to fact check myself right now. I'm pretty sure that's Cover Girl. Because Maybelline is like, maybe she's born with it. Maybe it's Maybelline. I think it's Easy Breezy Beautiful Cover Girl. Okay. And now that we put in that darker color, we can see kind of where I fucked up in coloring or like smoothing out those edges after I did the bucket. So I'm going to smooth out these edges. And I'm going to do this with my base color that I have for this layer so that I don't accidentally fill in any holes with her hair color and then I don't fuck myself over because if I do this and then I find a hole, like for example, if I go like that, you can see this area, still that. But because I've got a clipping layer and I took the hair out all the way that way, like this. Why did I do that? Oh, because I was going to bucket tool it and then I didn't. Okay. But yeah, so that's kind of why I do that, just so I can find any holes, and that way when I'm coloring later, if I run into those holes, then I can actually do them on the layer that I need to and not like that. What? No. Okay, sorry. And then, pro tip, or my shading tip, if you're all the way up here with this and you're doing your shading and lighting, still go that way or go that way. But when you're doing your lighting, just go that way. This is just go more white. Um, and then, like, obviously, like, yeah, this is a tutorial. This is just sort of how I do things. You honestly, my biggest advice is just play around. Like, just play around, figure it out. For coloring hair, I usually have, like, kind of three main colors that I color with. I color Piper's hair a little bit different, and I color Piper's hair in the same way that I color Beau's hair. And normally when I color hair, I do, okay, so for example, with Hazel and Willow, you can see I have three main colors. I got this color, so this is the base. And then I usually start with that, and then I do highlights. And then we have the shadows. So I usually start with base, shadows, and then I do highlights. I do the same thing with matte, so base, highlights. Oh god, he's so blonde. And then shadows. Eye color. I usually do that with like characters with lighter hair. Even with characters with darker hair, I do it sometimes. So it depends on the character, depends on the vibe. With Piper and with Bo, I start with the darkest because they have such dark hair, and then I do like a mid-tone, and then I do the highlight. And I can't tell you why I do that, but I do. Um, so we have Piper's. This is the base of her hair, and then we have her mid-tone like shading that I do, and I usually just like um kind of put it wherever. I usually always put it like up by their face, and then I usually do it like throughout the hair down here. And as you can see, it's kind of hard to see, but it's okay. And then we grab our highlights, and with these hair and stuff highlights, so we have her dark base color over here. For her like lighter color, I just took that saturation straight up. For the lightest color, I did that. I took a little bit more over to the yellow side because I wanted it to be a little bit more orange for her hair highlights. And that depends on the character. That's usually what I do with brown hair is I shade it into the more like orangey or like rusty category because that's what I think looks really pretty with brown. But there are exceptions, and one of those exceptions is my girl Siobhan. And Siobhan, where are you, baby? So Siobhan has her base color. Ew. This is her base color. And then for her highlights, I use this pink. And then for the shading, I just do that darker color. But her base color is very much like brown, but because I wanted a kind of different vibe for her, and I wanted less of that orange, and I wanted more of like this like pinky vibe, matches her flannel, matches her vibe a little bit more. I took it into the pink, and I think that shading brown hair with pink is super fun, and more people should do it. Okay, where was I? Color history. I think that's the color I was using for. Yeah, that was. Oh, interesting. I was not using the brush that I was using earlier, but that's okay because they're still watercolor brushes. And then I usually just take this highlight color, do some streakies, do some fun stuff with it. Yeah, whatever. And that's usually it. Sometimes I do take it and I'll take it in smaller areas, do it more like, condensed, confined. You can get as into it, as detailed as you want, as not detailed as you want. I usually just sort of do this much, call it a day, call it good. Now, with Piper, she does have her fun little gray streaks, and we're going to have some fun. This is not necessary. I just don't like that I did that. So because she has fun little gray streaks, I am going to take my clipping layer off, so the stuff that is above this is no longer clipping to this layer, it's clipping to this layer instead, and I'm going to make a new layer over top. And then we're just going to put in where her gray streaks are. And it's actually really fun, like, little tutorial on how I color her hair, because I think some people see her hair and they're like, I don't know how the fuck to do that. It's very simple, though. Where her gray streaks are, I usually try and keep them kind of in the same area. She's got, like, the Claire Saffitz bangs, and then she's got some more, like, longer little streaks throughout her hair. And then we're gonna clip that shit. We're gonna take, with her white hair, I usually just go straight up to white and just, like, very lightly. And also something that's very important about my art style, I use a lot of brushes, or at least with stuff like this, I use a lot of brushes that are very, like, pressure sensitive, because I have a very light hand when it comes to, like, my art and stuff. So I use a lot of stuff that's very pressure sensitive. If you have a heavy hand, um, a lot of the stuff that I do might be a little harder. In general, if you're gonna try and duplicate my art style, just have a really light hand. Be very like delicate with it. Um, there are I do okay, hold on. So I do also use um this brush a lot. I'm just gonna take you to this corner. I use this brush a lot. This is my clove brush. This has 0 pen pressure, which means that I can use it as light as I want. It's always gonna stay the same consistency. If you see my little doodles, this is usually what I do. It's kitty. But yeah, I use this brush a lot. I use this brush for sketching a lot. I usually use this brush when I feel that I'm getting way too sketchy with stuff, and it pushes me out of my comfort zone and makes me have to be like, oh, all my lines are the same. I guess I gotta think about where I'm putting my lines. Yeah. Okay, back to the show. So we have those clipped on top of her hair, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna merge with layer below, then we're gonna clip it again, and that's it. Okay, and then something else I really do, something I do a lot. Ooh, mess something up. There. Okay, fixed her eyebrow. She's good. We're saved. The world is better now. Something I also do a lot with my line art is I fuck around with my line art a lot. And there's 2 ways that I do stuff with my line art. So the first way is leave it at black, copy another, do that, put overlay, do that again, switch this guy to multiply, take that, red, do that, and it really kind of depends on what you want. I do enjoy doing this, kind of do that, take this over top, take a new layer, futz around with stuff like this where I don't like how that looks. I'm just going to go back in with the pencil that I did for lines again, kind of define some lines more, stuff like that. And I found that this also gives you a really nice kind of glowy look with your art. This is the kind of glowy kind of shit that you get. I haven't been doing it a lot. I do it as a quick cheap shortcut for stuff, but I haven't been doing it a lot. I don't really enjoy doing it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, take the darkest color that I have on the palette, take that, saturate it, go a little bit darker, make that my line art color, keep preserve opacity on. Take this, saturate it more, or saturate the fuck out of it. And then go over the places where the same colors would be touching. So for example, all of these little parts where her skin is. Do that, soften that up. Shading on her skin, And I just found that this makes your art look, it makes it feel a little bit more cohesive. I like the way it looks. I like the way that colored line art looks. I'm kind of lazy with it though, as you can see. Yeah, and then I also do it in places where the same color would be touching a lot. So for example, her shirt, saturate the fuck out of it, keep in the same shit, just make it darker. What? Am I in the wrong layer? Oh my god, it's on multiply. I was like, why is it not doing what I want it to? It's on multiply, that's why. Okay, I'm gonna take, and then for certain things, for certain characters and stuff, I do change it up depending on what I want. So for example, because Piper wears lipstick, I'm gonna mess around with her lip color and stuff. Do that a little bit more. Yeah. And then I also, make a new layer on top. Sometimes I like to throw these guys in, do little hair strandies. That's too big. Do little hair strandies, give a little bit more like emotion, like fluidity, have some stuff like outside the line art. I just find that it looks nice. Sometimes it'll add stuff. I try and like be careful about not adding too much because sometimes it's like, oh my god, can really like just take away from a piece if you add too much like extra accents and whatnot. But you know, whatever. Um, Sometimes like to add a little bit, just like shine and stuff like that. Usually just like the tip of the nose and the lips. Um, Maybe sometimes down there, whatever. But yeah, it's kind of what color was I using? I also like something that I do a lot, and you've probably noticed. I color pick a lot from different parts of my piece. I encourage, do that. Fuck around with your colors a lot. It really helps with making a cohesive color palette. Something I use a lot, especially when I'm designing cats, is I use this thing down here, which is you can find intermediate colors. So, for example, if I wanted to find the color between this red of her shirt and like the pink of her bow, stick that in there. You can use up to 4 colors. You can use 2 different colors, and then it basically just makes the gradient between the colors. I use that a lot, especially when I'm painting. Um, I've found it super helpful, especially with like stuff like grass, painting, whatever. I hand blend a lot of my gradients, so I usually either use just like a blendy brush, or I just fuck around, use secondary colors, stuff like that. I don't know if this makes any sense or not, but thanks for watching if you did, and I hope that you find this good and have a good time.